Good morning, everyone. We're up to Parak Yud Mishna Beis. Tapuach, a apple of truma. Shariskai, that it was crushed. Unesanai l'saycha isa v'chimtza, and that it was put into a dough, and it leavened it. It caused it to rise. Harezu asura, that loaf is forbidden. So we're talking about here that you've got a dough of chulin, and the apple that was truma, which was crushed, was put in. It now basically made the dough rise. So the Mishna said, the point of the Mishna is that even though no apple flavor can be detected in the dough, the apple is nevertheless not nullified, since the apple makes its presence felt by leavening the dough. This action is legally equivalent to imparting flavor to the dough. We learned in yesterday's Mishnah that in the case of, let's say, the onion that fell, the truma onion that fell into the lentils, it was cut. So we say there that you have to figure out, is there any flavor of the truma onion in the lentils? And if there is flavor, then it's going to be forbidden as a meduma, as a mixture of truma and chulin. If the flavor is not detected, it means the flavor dissipated, was nullified, there's no problem. Now here in the case of the apple, there's no flavor of the apple there, but the effect of the apple is there because it acted as the yeast. It acted as the agent to leaven it, to make it rise. And being that its effect is there, it's there because the whole fact that this dough rose is because of the apple. Then that's called that the apple is there. The same way, if the flavor of the apple would have been there, it would have made it forbidden. So too, its effect that remains is the equivalent of that, and therefore this bread may not be eaten by a non-Kohen. Next, barley that fell into a pit of water. Even though the waters were spoiled now through the barley, Meim of mutarim, the water is still permissible. Now, what that means is like this. This barley falls into the water. Apparently, the barley sitting in the water is going to spoil the water. It's not going to help it. It's going to damage it. I don't know if that means it's not drinkable anymore, but it's not going to make it well. It's going to spoil the water. Now, at the same time, if it's spoiling the water, then that means that its taste is there. It means the taste of the barley has now been imparted into the water. Otherwise, it wouldn't spoil the water. So here we have a situation where the barley is truma, it's in the water, it's imparting flavor to the water, and nonetheless, we're saying it's permissible. The answer lies in the words of the Mishnah when it says, Avabi shavishu, even though it spoiled it. Even though the taste of the barley is there, it's still going to be permissible because of the fact that it spoiled it. And this was the principle that we mentioned yesterday, that neisen tam pagam. If the taste that goes in, if the flavor that goes in is detrimental to the food that it's absorbed into, then it doesn't make it forbidden. It doesn't count. And that's exactly what's happening here. The Mishnah is saying, even though it spoiled it, which really means even though its flavor is there, at the end of the day, it's still permissible because of that reason, because it was an issue, because it spoiled it. Because it spoiled it, it's nice and tam pagam. It's detrimental. The flavor going in is detrimental to the food, to the flavor, to the taste of the food, and therefore it does not affect it. Okay, that's the end of the Mishnah. Prohibition against turning a blind eye to the lost object, lost article of a Jew, and just leave it there. As it states, you shall not see the ox of your brother or his lamb that are lost. And you'll hide yourself from it. You're not permitted to hide yourself from it. That means if a Jew's lost object is there, you can't just turn a blind eye to it. You've got to get involved and return it. Ignoring it is a transgression of a prohibition. This applies at all places, at all times, both by men and by women. Next, mitzvahs leisas yisrael behemas Yisrael reivetz tachas masa'oi v'yelech lo yishlo lo ozroi lefreik ma'behema, which means not to leave the animal of a Jew that is squatting under its load, and you're just going to go on your way and not help him unload the animal. Meaning the load on the animal has become, it's shifted, whatever's happened to it, and the animal is basically on the ground now, and it can't get up to carry the load. So the owner now needs to basically unload and repack it in a way that now the animal will be able to carry it. So you're coming upon such a situation. A fellow Jew's animal now has fallen under the burden of the packages on it, and it's a question of help. And now it's a question of helping the owner unload so that he can repack. So here is a prohibition to ignore that. To ignore a situation like that where a fellow Jew's animal is squatting under its load and not to help him unload it. If you ignore that, you have transgressed the prohibition. Shemar, as it says, you shall not see the donkey of your brother or his ox fallen on the way, and you will ignore it, and you'll make yourself, and you'll, as you said before, and and hide yourself from it. It applies in all places, at all times, both by men and by women. Okay, everybody have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful and inspiring and meaningful Rosh Hashanah. Wishing you all a ksiva v'chasima tova, a shana tova m'sukkah, a happy and sweet, healthy new year.